Hello, welcome everyone to another episode of the Virtual Ninja Show. My name is Heike, and today I have Corinna back, and we are going to talk about agents. Corinna, please introduce yourself.
Hi, Heike. Hi, everyone. Corinna Forstein. I'm a product manager on the Microsoft security team. And I've been working on Microsoft Defender and Security Copilot agents recently for that.
So, last time you have been on the show, we talked about Copilot, the embedded experience in Microsoft Defender. So now, what's now the evolution to agents, and where are they coming in?
All right. Yes, that's right. So we've been busy with Security Copilot for Defender for the last couple of years, actually, working on what we call basically the assistant to the SOC. So Security Copilot is an assistant, meaning everywhere in the tasks that the SOC analysts perform, there is an assistant helping them with these tasks. For example, helping to understand the incident in front of them, helping to analyze scripts and understand what they're doing and if they're malicious, helping to create queries, if you remember, right? So those were all individual tasks that Copilot was assisting with. And actually, even when we look at what has happened with those tasks, you can see here the different types of Gen AI assistant tasks that we covered. We've seen very nice reduction in the mean time to resolution for incidents. This is in a study that we did for how Copilot assists with efficiency, and we can see 30% reduction in mean time to resolution of incidents for people who are using Copilot for these activities compared to people who are not. So this is like a great start and promising, and we're continuing on this journey with the assistant. However, now we also have the emergence of agents. And the promise of agents is that now Copilot and AI can help us not only with individual point tasks as assistants, but actually agents can take on entire end-to-end flows or jobs and execute them autonomously, basically either without the human have in the loop at all, or with the person, the SOC analyst, still assisting, but taking, basically being a force multiplier for the SOC, taking off some of the load and doing some of these jobs and lengthier tasks all by themselves. So agents are going to be helping with items in the queues, with any tasks and activities that analysts have that take a lot of work today. We're basically starting to build this notion of an autonomous SOC, if you like, right? And a SOC where there is a lot more happening that agents can take on and do, and the SOC analysts can focus on just the more maybe challenging or interesting tasks.
So, and the difference between the playbooks is also that the playbook is very specific on something and not like an agent independent of the beginning.
Good question. So we get this question a lot. What's the difference between agents and automation or playbooks in our world of Microsoft Defender? So there's a few differences. The main one is something that you mentioned. So automations and playbooks are pre-coded sequences of activities or workflows, right? So someone has to sit and build them, author them, and say, okay, in this activity, their first step is to do this, the second step is to do this, and so on. The problem with that, first of all, it's that it's tedious to build them, right? So for every single scenario, for every single case, you have to have a playbook built and maintained and so on. And then they are rigid, right? So they're only built for that specific case. If you have a slightly different case come up, then it doesn't work anymore. You have to either change the automation or build a different one. With agents, we don't pre-code them. We basically give them the task or the activity that they need to do, the information that comes with it, for example, the incident that we want to have handled, and a set of tools that are at their disposal. And the agent itself builds the workflow dynamically. For each case, it builds the workflow that it identifies as being the right one to solve that task. And so that means that there is a lot more dynamic behavior there, right? So the agent can basically adapt the flow dynamically to the case in hand. And that gives us a big advantage in the ability to scale out the activity of these agents from specific, very, repeated cases to more diverse cases.
But then they could also work together with the automation to then basically close the loop or
Oh,
perform any action based on what the agent discovered.
definitely. So agents and automations can collaborate or can be combined. There are several different scenarios. You can have an agent perform some flow, and then in that flow, actually, some of the actions that it takes can be automations that were pre-created in case that there are activities to do that are already pre-known. It's also possible to do the opposite. So to have an automation where one of the steps is actually an agent. So you don't pre-code that step, but you tell it what to do. And
Giving
yes, they
more
can
flexibility, right? Because it's
exactly.
not, oh, awesome. Okay.
Exactly. So depending on the task and the activity that needs to be done, in some cases, automation is more appropriate for that part. In other cases, agents are more appropriate for that part. So there will be that flexibility to combine them. And we actually do this in a scenario that I will show today. Um, I do want to mention about agents also. Another important characteristic is that they can learn and adapt. So you based on feedback, right? So again, a difference from automation. Automation is fixed. What you've coded, that's what's always going to happen. For agents, if the agent generated a certain workflow and it wasn't quite exactly right, you can give it feedback and tell it, hey, you shouldn't do this here, you should do that, or the result was incorrect because of something or other. And that feedback feeds into the agent's input for the next runs. And it can take that into consideration and adapt next time, build the workflow slightly differently based on that feedback that you provided. So that's also an important thing.
So all agents are based on Copilot. So that's the underlying technology that's being used to then build the agent.
All of our security agents are going to be built on the Security Copilot platform. Yes. And the Security Copilot is providing the basic platform and capabilities for running these agents and also for creating them. If you can think about them as an evolution of Copilot skills, so the skills are those assistant type tasks, and agents are basically workflows built dynamically that execute sets of skills to execute an end-to-end tasks. But all of them are part of the Security Copilot platform. Yes.
So, and when I think that we as Microsoft have ideas to build agents, probably, each product team is like, oh, I want an agent to do this and this. There is our partners. Can they also leverage the platform to build agents that they think are needed?
Definitely, and they are already doing it actually. So the platform is an open platform, so it's not just for us at Microsoft to build agents, but certainly for partners as well, and in fact also for customers. So customers will also be able to build their custom agents. So right now, there is already a pretty nice set of initial agents that we are building here at Microsoft. You can see them here in the list. The phishing triage agent is one that we are going to talk about here, but there's more for DLP and IRM. There's an Entra agent for conditional access optimization and a vulnerability remediation agent from Intune and a threat intelligence briefing agent. Those are all in different areas of our security and management ecosystem. And yes, there are already some partners you can see here on the list, and this is only a subset of all the different partners that are already building agents on top of Security Copilot and our security products. I have to say that this is happening so fast, and every one of these agents is basically, kind of comes to life overnight. Yeah, we expect a pretty vibrant ecosystem there.
So, Corinna, you mentioned you brought an agent. So I guess it's a specific agent. So what is this agent about?
I did. Let me pull it out of my bag. Oh. So this is our friend, the phishing triage agent in Microsoft Defender. And I want to say a few words about it before I show it to you.
Mm-hmm.
First, why did we pick this agent as our first agent? Well, because phishing triage is a very time consuming and annoying problem for
Mm-hmm.
SOCs. There's a lot of these fish submissions, in fact. The agent is focusing on fish submissions, meaning users who receive emails that look like fish and they report it to the SOC. There's on average about 100 of these per day in our customer base. Some have a few, some have thousands even. You can imagine that with all the training and people being very scared and aware that they could be phished, there is a lot of these submissions going on, even just like, okay, let me just be on the safe side, right? And so the SOC has a lot of these to triage through. And the other thing about it is that it's a very low signal to noise group of things, right? So of these submissions, usually 90 some percent of them are actually benign, and only a very small set of them
Mm-hmm.
is malicious. But having to go through them is tedious and makes for fatigue, and often things are missed and so on. So it's a really good place to start with, having an agent really come in and help with this task and pick up a lot of the work from the analysts, and only really eventually forward to analysts the items that are with high confidence true fish.
Mm-hmm.
So now that we said that, I can show you, if you like, what it's doing.
Yes, please show me in action.
Okay, so here we are in the Microsoft Defender portal. And what we will see here in the homepage as well as in the incidents queue is that we have this Security Copilot agent available to us to start using and to help us with the queue.
How do they show up, Corinna? Is this just like you buy it, you turn it on, you don't buy it, you turn it on, and that's why how you buy it, and then they just appear in the portal? How do I know I have agents?
So, good question. This agent is now in a public preview, and it is made available in public preview to all customers who already have Copilot. So if you have Copilot, meaning you have SCUs that you've purchased to use Copilot features, you're eligible to try the agent. And that means that you will see a pop-up in your incident queue and also in the homepage that says, hey, your agent is available for you and you can use it. By the way, we are having a free trial for this agent for 60 days. So that's how you do it. It doesn't start operating by default. It shows up as an offering that you can take. And if you decide to that you want it, you can go through a very short setup sequence to basically enable it.
And in the setup sequence, you basically need to allow the agent to perform tasks on behalf of you and give you agreement, and not suddenly that thing is doing something.
Yes, exactly. It's all transparent. It doesn't do anything without you agreeing to it. So you see here how in the queue, you have a place where you can see that the agent is here and you can initiate the setup. If you do decide to use it, then the first thing you get is a quick explanation, and this is also available in documentation, about what the agent does, what are the permissions that it needs, the products that it's using, and any plugins from Copilot, so you know what it requires. In terms of permissions, it's an interesting note to make that we are trying to make sure that the agent has the minimum permissions required and not more than that. And we are modeling that based on the same permissions that an analyst would require to do this task, right? So, for example, for the fish triage agent, You need to be able to read security data basics, to see email content, to CTI, and so on. So those permissions are the same as what an organization would give to their SOC analysts that are doing this task. And this actually makes it even more convenient, because I'll show you what happens next. After you've seen this overview, you now have to go and assign an identity to this agent, right? So the agent will be running in the background. It needs to run under a certain identity.
Mhm.
You can assign it what's called an agent identity. Today, we are supporting user identities. We are going towards a special type of identity that is agent specific. But anyway, you create basically an identity and assign it to the agent. And this identity is assigned to a role. If you remember, in Defender, we have roles that can be defined, a unified RBAC system. And every organization that's using Defender will have today already some roles defined for their analysts.
Yeah.
Likely, for example, there is a role for the tier 1 analysts that are doing the initial triage of alerts. Well, this agent can just go into that same role. And that way, it will get the same permissions as the analysts that are performing this type of activity. So that should be pretty simple to do. You give it the identity, you assign the role, and that's pretty much it. Now the agent is deployed and starts to do what it knows how to do, which is go to the incident queue and pick up alerts related to user submitted phish and start to operate on them. So now let's see what happens in the queue. In the queue, we will see some indications about where the agent is operating. You'll see a tag on every incident and alert that the agent is picking up. There will be an agent tag that indicates that it's being handled by the agent. It will be assigned to the phish triage agent, as you can see here.
Mhm.
Any alert that the agent completes the triage for and determines that it's actually not phish, it will set the classification as false positive and actually resolve that alert, because there's no more work for it. And for those that it determines to be potential high confidence true phish, it will set the classification as true and keep it open, so that the next stage for handling this incident occurs, whether it's an analyst that does that, or whether it's, if you have MDO, then MDO Air will pick up on that classification. A lot of people ask about this relationship. It's a nice collaboration, actually, between the agent and MDO Air, where the agent performs the classification and then MDO Air picks up that verdict and expands the full scope of this campaign, finds all the relevant emails and the affected users, and does the full kind of remediation path. And this is a good example, Heike, of that collaboration between agents and automation that we talked about before.
So an MDO Air knows about this, that it needs to pick up these things.
Yes.
Yeah.
MDO Air will watch for triage, for classifications of these alerts.
The classification to be set to true, and then MDO. Okay.
Exactly. For those items where the agent determined that this is true phish and sets the classification to true, that means that there needs to be more handling of this, right? Because it's a true phish. That means we have to go check who else received this email. Did they click the email? Was there any other malicious activity happening for them after that, if they did that, and so on. All of that automation of that flow is done by MDO Air. And so what happens in the queue, because of this operation of the agents, is that the queue basically shrinks, right? So most of the incidents classified as false positive and resolved, and only the ones that are true positive remain in the queue. Like I said, this means for submissions specifically, this means about less than 5% of the queue.
Yeah. You mentioned that like 90% or more is no real phish. So you have all these out of the queue already, which is amazing.
Right, yeah. And you didn't need to do anything. If you wanted to see what the agent did, you can. For example, here's an example of the classification. And this is another interesting thing about these agents. It's a feature that you can get very nicely with the use of LLMs, which is that they have explainability built in. You can get a nice textual explanation for everything that the agent did, including here in this case, why it decided on this classification. And there's a nice textual description of what were the reasons that this was the decision. This is critical because we've heard a lot of customer feedback around, if I can't see what happened and why, and something was happened, yeah, I can't trust it, and then it means I have to go recheck everything and do the work over again. So that doesn't help. So the fact that there is an explanation here is really important, and this is something that AI-based agents can do very nicely. And here you can see the queue. If we filter out all the resolved items, we are just left with a few. Let's go and see what happens next. If we want to look at all the incidents that do require further action, we can go into an individual incident view and let's see what happens there. Here's an example of an incident that was classified as true, actually, by the agent. And we can go into the incident view and see, again, the classification and all the explanation. But we can actually see more than that. If we go to the activity tab here, we can see the full flow that the agent generated and executed in this investigation. And you can see the richness here. In fact, I kind of said, okay, it's doing some things and triages, but behind that, there is a lot of work that every email and every submission actually goes through, including analysis of the metadata, analysis of the email content itself by the LLM. You can, it's a semantical analysis, meaning it can tell, there is a sense of urgency in the email or a sense of trying to make you to do something, those kinds of things that really only with LLMs you can do.
Can it click on links?
Oh, yeah, there's an analysis, certainly. So it will analyze all the URLs that are in the email, do a deep investigation, so detonate them actually in the sandbox, analyze the results of that. So imagine the LLM is analyzing the landing pages of those URLs as pictures, actually. And it can determine things like, there's logos here of, the company. So it's trying to impersonate that. A lot of this very deep analysis goes on here, and this is why it's able to do this triage with very high accuracy, really. The thing about this, like we said, first of all, is that it's generated by the agent. So the agent determines which tools to execute and when, in order to get to the classification for the case at hand. Sometimes it will invoke one tool or another. Sometimes it will decide it's not needed. Eventually, the workflow is a workflow. So that's the similarity to R, because it does execute, a set of steps in sequence. But it's dynamically built, and that's the main difference. And for every one of these steps, you can get details about, so there's a lot of transparency here. You can see all the steps executed. For each of them, you can get full description of what happened in that step, what was the conclusion from it, and why, again, with an explanation to it. And here I want to show you another punch of this feature, which is the topic of providing feedback. So if you remember, we said the agents can learn by taking feedback. So here's an example of an email reported as phish. The agent determined that this is potentially a true positive. But when the analyst went and looked into this, they actually recognized this email. And in fact, before that, the agent described why it thought it was a potential phish. Yes, because it was sent to many recipients. It was, you can see this here. Let me show that again. We can see this in the description here on the right, urgency and so on. There's a few characteristics that were very suspicious. When the analyst comes in and looks at this email, they're like, oh, I recognize this. We just had a training of all the organization about something, and this is the vendor that does that training. So I know from my organizational context that this email is actually okay. It's not phish. So now what I can do as an analyst is I can provide that feedback to the agent to customize it to my environment with context that it didn't have. And how do we do that? We have the ability here in the agent experience. In the agent sidecar on the right, we can change the classification that the agent provided from true to false. And we can give it an explanation in natural language, in words, right? So, for example, I can say here, why did I change the classification? Because I know this sender, it's a corporate compliance training vendor, and so this email in our environment is okay. This feedback, notice it's like natural language. I just put in text why I think this is different for my environment. And now the agent will take that feedback and automatically incorporate it in its operations. So next time that it analyzes a similar email to this one, it will take that comment in consideration and realize that for my environment specifically, this email is okay. So that's a really important and I guess unique characteristic of agents.
Wow. Okay. This is amazing that the agent is doing so much extra work, or like doing so much work that usually an analyst had to do. And it's a repetitive task, right? It's not something, oh, wow, there's an attack and I want to go after them. No, it's like, again, a reported fish. So let's go through it. So I think it's the annoying work.
Exactly, exactly. You can have those agents do all the annoying work and repetitive work that you don't have time to do. But the trick to that is it's repetitive, but it's not exactly the same all the time, right? So sometimes there are nuances, and this is the nice thing about the agent, that it knows how to take the different variations. And you can see here in the performance page, lastly for the agent, you can always see actually the execution statistics. So we can see how many incidents it handled, how much time it saved, how much time it took for every one of the items, and kind of track the value that you get from it over time.
So, Corey, now that it's out there in public preview, it is available for Copilot customers.
So the trial is something that we're doing now for the public preview. Customers who have already some paid SUs, so they have Copilot and MDOP2 will receive the offer to sign up to the 60-day trial. After the public preview ends, so when we go GA, hopefully not too far out, then everyone can get a trial for the agent. Also, folks who have not had a Copilot before, they will be able to try it. Yes.
Awesome. So, I don't even want to go where this is going in the future right now, because it's. I know I will have you back with new exciting content. For now, Corinna, thank you so much. I think I learned a lot about the agents, but especially, how all these different tools, let's call them, come together and actually work hand to hand, and it's not one replacing the other. Thank you so much. And I hope I see you soon. And everyone out there, thank you for watching. Bye-bye.